Welcome to Break Free from Corporate, the only podcast dedicated to bringing you business success secrets from leading entrepreneurs with one thing in common. They left the corporate world, became their own boss, and are now living incredible lives. To access previous and all future episodes, visit breakfreefromcorporate.com and subscribe today.
Well, hi everyone, this is Gavin Sequeira here, and welcome back to another exciting episode on Break Free from Corporate. I've got a special guest today. Her name is Tara Solberg. Tara comes to us from New South Wales in Australia, and I believe somewhere along the Wollongong coast or the south coast. Is that right, Tara? Are you there?
Yes, the south coast of New South Wales.
Brilliant, brilliant. I'm excited to have you on our show, Tara.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, cool. Look, I'm excited to get into it. You've got quite an interesting background. I remember in our previous chat, you were telling me how you had the traditional starter life where you worked in the corporate world, and I believe you and your husband were both graphic designers and worked for, was it Ocean and Earth?
Ocean and Earth, yeah, in the surf industry, yeah.
That's not what you do today, because you've come a long, long way and you've transitioned out of that into your own business. And today you run a successful furniture and homewares business, and you do a lot of work around inspiring women in a mentoring capacity, and you're putting together an online course. You're doing all these different things. And so I'm excited to talk to you about how you made these transitions happen, and, you know, what were the challenges along the way, and you know, maybe some tips for our listeners. How does that sound?
Yeah, no, that's exciting.
Yeah, great. So look, walk us through maybe, Tara, from the beginning, I guess, you know, did you always have that entrepreneurial streak with you?
I think I've always had that entrepreneurial streak, but so I grew up in Jervis Bay on the south coast of New South Wales. So obviously I'm 38 now, so all those years ago it was quite a sleepy town. But that's what I love most about it, and I still love, you know, that side of it. But so we actually, my family moved down when I was 2 years old. We came down from Camden in Sydney. My father's a builder, and my mum was a stay-at-home mum for quite a few years, because my dad ended up having his own business and that sort of thing. So, so we lived in Jervis Bay for for my whole upbringing, really. Yeah. And that's just been the most beautiful and amazing place to live. But from there, I obviously went to school and everything down that way as well. But then I moved to Sydney to go to university. So I stayed with my auntie and uncle for the first year. They lived in Ingleburn, and I'd commute every day on the train and, you know, leave at 5:30 in the morning and all those fun
lots
things.
of fun. Which university was that, by the way?
It was the University of New South Wales, but it was COFA, so the College of Fine Arts campus in Paddington on Oxford Street.
Sure.
Yeah, so I completed a Bachelor of Design there, and then I ended up moving to Coogee with some flatmates or people that I'd met at uni.
That's a lovely part as well.
It is, and I think I really needed that. I guess, you know, the ocean and that salty air kind of thing. Just kind of, you know, I really missed walking along the beach and having that time to think. So moving closer to the beach kind of allowed that as much as possible. But so I went to uni. For my course was a 4-year course. But after the third year, in the fourth year of that course, you undertake 6 months of professional work experience, and then the rest of the time is working on your major project.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of that fourth year, I was actually out at a friend's house having dinner of some people who I'd worked with at a local cafe. And they said that there was a job going, like a graphic design job going at Ocean and Earth, which was the surf company, which is actually located in Sussex Inlet down on the south coast.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I thought immediately I have to jump onto that one. I can't let that opportunity go because, you know, that was at the time, you know, a young girl's dream job.
Fantastic. Yeah, 100%.
Growing up on the south coast. So I rang up and was accepted to have an interview for the job. And when I walked into the interview, that was when I first met Danny, who is my now husband and
there you go.
partner.
Isn't it interesting how one decision can almost change the course of your life, really?
Oh, so many sliding doors moments, that's for sure. So that was the start of my full-time working career. Obviously, I'd had jobs before that, but I guess thinking back to that whole entrepreneurial spirit, I used to play the flute, so not many people really probably know this about me, but I used to busk on the weekends, and I actually started teaching the flute so that I didn't have to work at McDonald's and I didn't have to,
get. What a shame. I, on the other hand, did work at McDonald's. So if only someone had told me, hey, why don't you try playing the flute and busking? I might have been a different career path. I don't know.
It was actually really, really good. I'd get about $80 for 2 hours for busking, and then
That's
I'd get
not bad.
$40 an hour or $20 for half an hour for the lessons. So I was doing quite well for a young girl.
Sure.
Yeah. But quite entrepreneurial as a younger person, and then wanting to eventually start a business.
Yeah, and so what I'm hearing is obviously one of the, it wasn't a foreign concept for you to do something out of the ordinary, because a lot of us, especially the listeners on this podcast, are people who have gone down that traditional path. I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy called Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yes.
Yeah. And he talks about, the poor dad syndrome of, going to school, getting good grades, then going to college or university, and then you get a job and you work hard and you save. And I guess that's, what most people end up doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then there's a few of us, or a few people, that suddenly go, why? Why do I have to do it that way? Like, is there another way? Or a better way? And I guess you were a little bit fortunate in the fact that your dad was a business owner.
Yes.
So you had experience in growing up in a family that sort of was associated with business, and I think just doing things like busking and earning your own money with your own talent and skills is a very soul fulfilling exercise, if you like, because you're doing it yourself on your own 2 feet. Yeah,
definitely. And it's also, one of those things that obviously, it's not in your comfort zone. Like I was comfortable standing there, busking in the street and things like that. And, I was at the stage in my life where that was kind of considered pretty embarrassing. It's not a cool thing to do. But, I knew what I wanted, and I've always been fairly determined. So I'm able to kind of block those things out as well.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And I imagine it would have given you a lot of confidence as well at an early age to be able to do something, put yourself out there. You're pretty much in the public eye.
Yes. And even saving money and something like learning really early on.
Yes. So a lot of good life skills that you picked up just doing something like busking. But so you worked at this surf shop and you were in a graphic design role. You're working full time. You met your future husband there. How was that? How was work at that time? Was it exciting? Did you hit a point where you went, oh, I don't know if I want to do this forever? Or like, at what point did you shift gears and think outside of that?
Yeah, well, initially it was really exciting. Like I said, it was pretty much the dream job for a South Coast girl and who'd grown up on the beach. And especially when I had my first interview, I was one of the questions that I was asked was, do you have a passport? And I said yes. And one of the, the prerequisites of the job was that we were to travel the world twice a year on buying trips, to forecast trends and buy samples and to, find that inspiration to build a range.
Yep.
So obviously, first full-time job with, world travel twice a year, that was just the most amazing experience.
That is pretty amazing.
Yeah, really, really good.
What sort of places did you get to?
So we would start in Honolulu in Hawaii. We'd stop over there for 2 days. Then we'd head to LA, to California for another 2 days. And then we would fly into somewhere in Europe. So we've done Barcelona, Paris, London, and then always London, followed by that another place in Europe, and then followed by Tokyo. So everywhere would just be, 2 or 3 days in each place. So it was actually
amazing,
exhausting, but
what a great experience though as a young person.
Yes, definitely. It definitely gave me a thirst and a hunger for travel. That's for sure.
Yeah, and so you had this amazing start to your working career, and you're loving it, you're traveling, you're earning, you're doing things, and so did you hit a point of burnout, or did you hit a point where you went, oh geez, I'm missing something, or how did you, because I guess for a lot of people that are listening to this, that's what happens, Tara. Like they've been in a job for several years, or they've been in an industry, or they've been in a company, and they've just hit a glass ceiling, or they've hit a point where they can't go any further. Now they're frustrated.
Yes,
or they're held back. So was that the case for you?
Yeah, it definitely was. I know. So I worked there for a total of about 5 years. And probably the last year was kind of up and down for me. It's not that I didn't enjoy what I was doing, and I really loved the people that I worked with and worked for, but the company was going through quite a bit of change, and investors were coming in and they're having board meetings and all that sort of thing. So the culture of the place really changed, and I found it was getting quite toxic. And just kind of being surrounded by that was quite, it was just uncomfortable. And also in terms of, because you're in a creative position, being a designer, I felt like, we were dictated to quite a bit in terms of what we had to design and how it needed to look and that sort of thing. Like, just because it's a surf company doesn't mean we have to put palm trees and Hawaiian flowers on everything.
Yeah.
So it kind of got to the stage where I thought, I used to love this, but I don't love it so much anymore. And I can really imagine myself doing something else. But what is that? And I would literally go home every night and stand in the shower just trying to figure out what was I going to do. And I even thought at one stage I was quite unhappy, and I thought maybe I'll just waitress for a while until I can figure out what it is. I just was really feeling kind of worn down by being in that environment, I guess. And then we explored a whole bunch of different ideas, and just always kind of keeping our eyes open for that next opportunity, I guess, was really important at that stage.
Yeah, I guess it's a good point to reflect, because a lot of the time when I talk to people and they say, Gavin, like I need to get out of what I'm doing. I hate my job, or I don't like where I'm working, and it's toxic. And so I hear these words quite often, and I know what it's like to be in a company that's very politically charged, or you've got people that are making decisions now on your behalf, and what you do and how you do it, and your all your KPIs and targets and this and that. And suddenly it's not fun anymore. It's not what it used to be, and you kind of feel like the cage is getting smaller and you're suffocating.
Yeah, definitely. And we, like, Danny and I were both the same. Like, we put everything into it. Like, we treated it like it was our own business. And, we had ideas and things that we would have loved to have pursued, but, we weren't allowed to. There were, restrictions put in place and that sort of thing. So it just felt like there was no room to grow there.
Yeah. And so then you obviously, were searching, like soul searching for what else could you do. And was it the same with Danny as well, or were you guys on the same path, or was he? Yeah. Was it more you than him at this stage?
No, I think both of us. He was, he'd been there quite a bit longer than I was. I had been, so he was, always the last person there to lock up and all that kind of thing. So he'd done a lot of hours and put a lot of time into it. But he was at the stage too where he was just feeling really frustrated. So it was kind of, the timing came for both of us where we just decided we need to figure out what we're doing here and how we're going to move on to something else, because obviously being based on the South Coast, it was like, to find a job like that in the first place is quite rare.
That's right.
And so then it's like, well, what are we going to do next? It's not like I can just apply for another job. Because there wasn't really anything on offer or that was available.
Yeah.
So, we just kept our eyes and ears open, I guess. And we even looked at buying another business. So we even looked at buying a pizza shop at one stage.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yep.
Yeah, no, like we were actually both pretty excited about it. We looked into it. We even looked at the figures, what they'd done. But then obviously when you really sit down and think about, is this what we want to do?
Yeah.
The whole why wasn't really there. Like
that's important. Okay.
Yeah,
yep.
Definitely. And I figured out that I just wanted to run this pizza shop because I wanted to do create a beautiful fit out and make it look nice.
Yeah.
Not sort of chop up vegetables and knead dough and all that sort of thing. So it really, the passion for it wasn't there. And we sort of figured out that, we need to be doing something more visual and also something like that wasn't accommodating for later on if we decided to have a family and things like that.
Yeah, good point. So I like how you evaluated some of your decisions, because a lot of people, one, they make decisions in haste or, when, they're under a lot of stress and they're not thinking clearly. And so they'll just go and buy a business. I know past colleagues and people I've worked with who've gone and bought the pizza shop or bought a restaurant or a cafe or a BP service station or something like that. They've gone and invested in a business, and all they've done is a very superficial look at the books, because for them it was like, oh, well, it's already running. I guess if I can be an owner in it, then, it'll kind of take care of itself. And that's really, and a lot of them ended up in a lot of pain. Which is, it's a sad thing, but it's a fact of life. And I liked how you looked at it, and even if the books look good, it wasn't your passion. It wasn't something that you could see yourself long term doing, and you really weighed that up, didn't you?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So from there, we looked at we had a friend who actually owned a homewares and furniture shop in Milton, down on the South Coast, and she was actually selling.
Right.
But to me, I loved going into those stores on the weekends. Like that was what we did. I'd drag Danny down there. We'd have lunch and then, have a look through the homeware stores. And that was kind of what, you did on the weekends.
Yeah.
But I always thought, how could something like that really make money? Like to me, it must be more of a hobby. Like you can't really make a living out of having a homeware store, because I never really used to buy a lot of things, obviously on a bit of a limited budget. But so I always wondered, but then she was actually selling her business, and I got Danny to call her to see, what she wanted for it and, if it was still available and all that sort of thing. And he gave her a call and she said, look, the sale's already gone through. I've got a buyer, but if you're really wanting to start a homewares business, you guys can do it on your own. You don't need to buy a business. You've got the creative capacity to pull all of that together. And she said, I can help you. So, we had a look at her books and everything and realized that there was true potential in owning a furniture and homeware store. It wasn't just a hobby. And from that point on, that's when we decided to start that business.
Right. Okay. And so, Tara, were you still, I guess the tricky thing with a lot of people who want to start something on the side is they're afraid to quit their job or just walk away from, let's say, a high paying income.
Yes.
Because, they've got the mortgage and the family and the kids and all of that. So now let's say someone was in that position where they've got all of those things, but they want to start a homeware business or whatever business on the side. I recommend to people usually don't quit your job. See if you can find a few extra hours outside of your work to do this on the side and get help where you can. Because, if you quit your job and you just start something from scratch, you're literally going from whatever it is to zero. And now plus you're going into debt. And it can be quite daunting it actually can be quite scary for a lot of people. And that's what puts a lot of people off. How did you guys like get into like to start a new business? Was one of you still working? Did you kind of transition your way across, or did you take up a part-time job on the side? Like, what did you guys do?
Yeah, so I ended up resigning first. So the plan was that I would finish up. I had the lower income of both of us.
Yeah.
So I resigned and I got the store sort of organized and set up and, you know, all of that side of things. So I was kind of doing that each day while Danny was at work.
Yeah.
And after work every day, we'd both be at the store, you know, helping out with the renovations and that side of things, the dirty side. But then the goal was that we would open the store, see how it went. And then when we kind of felt like it was on a path to actually doing well or being successful, then at that stage, Danny would finish up. But so we opened, when we opened, we had like an opening night and that was hugely successful because the store that we'd renovated, we'd done this major renovation. Like the store had been vacant for about 6 months. Nobody wanted it.
Wow.
It was up the end of the street and the floors were all rotted. Like there was a lot of work to be done in it, which I think was the main reason why it was empty for so long. But because we'd completed such a huge transformation, then, you know, we knew our goal, I guess, was to have that instant wow factor to really make like that lasting impression.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And on opening night, I'll never forget the faces of everybody who walked in that night, and they were just kind of amazed at what we'd done. And it was just, it's such a great night and hugely successful. So the next day we opened, and I know that we thought, well, if we just make that the rent at least to start with until people kind of know that we're here,
that's a good start,
and it should be okay. So the rent was $650 a week, and on that first opening day I think we did about $4,000 or $4,500. So
wow,
it was amazing. And then a similar amount the next day, and then it just kind of took off. So within a month, Danny decided that he was going to resign as well, and then he came over to join me in the business full time.
That's amazing. So I guess one of the questions I have is, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty when you start a business because, like you said, you didn't know it was going to be successful. I mean, obviously you would do all the things needed to get there, and it sounds like you did all the right things. But you know, I guess this is the sort of stuff that a lot of the listeners on these podcasts, they're not sure. They're not, you know, because there's a lot of uncertainty, they're afraid to take that first step and maybe try something. So how did you guys kind of manage your risk from that point of view? Like, say, you know, with budgets and just, I know you did a fancy renovation and you transformed this whole shop from a 6-month vacant, you know, torn down sort of lot to something that I bet looked amazing. You know, were there any times when you were like, if this doesn't work out, then we're going to do this, or did you just back yourself 100% and you know, I guess you just went along.
Yeah, I always actually think back to that time because I do think about that a lot. And right from when we made that decision to start our own business, we did back ourselves 100%. Like I felt like it was kind of all or nothing. Like we just had to make it work because there didn't really feel like there was an alternative.
Yeah. Okay.
But also, obviously, prior to going into it, meeting up with the friend of ours who had that homeware store was a huge, I guess, factor in terms of working out whether or not it was risky or not. Like having access to her figures and seeing what she'd been able to turn over in her kind of a shop was really important for us to take that confidence step.
Yeah, definitely.
And then obviously making sure that we had, you know, planned as best that we could and had, you know, done an assessment of all of the risks and all that sort of thing. So we did a business plan, we put all of that together, and we had a 5-year goal, and yeah, we did all of that work. Obviously also having to do that to try and get finance from the bank, which we didn't get either, because
it almost forces you to have to do that, doesn't it? In a way.
Yeah. So we did all of that, but they didn't give us any money. So Danny had a boat that he sold and everything that we used the money. But yeah, doing all of that, planning all of that out was really important, but also doing our research. We did a lot of research.
Yeah, and I think that's the critical point that we can elaborate on, because I think before you make any kind of decisions to start any type of business or go into any venture or invest money or buy an investment property or whatever it is, I mean, it just makes sense to do your research, because a lot of people just don't. And I see the statistics every day, Tara, new businesses, small businesses failing in the first couple of years, and it's high. It's like over 80, 90% in some cases. And there's really no reason for that to happen, because if you make good decisions, or at least you do your research and you have people to guide you, and even in your case where you guys had started this from scratch, but you had access to someone who was successful running it and managed to sell their business, and then you had access to their books and maybe some of their advice, and some people might say they might have almost mentored you a little bit in that early stage just to kind of guide you. That's invaluable.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was a huge advantage when it came to starting up. Like, it was just having that person that you could ask questions, and that side of thing was really, really beneficial and really helped us to feel that confidence.
Yeah. And it gave you insights into things you might not have seen, and you could have asked questions like, what did you do when this happened? Or what would you do in this scenario? And it really helps you just bounce ideas, doesn't it?
Definitely. But also, I feel like Danny and I were quite intuitive in terms of how we wanted to grow the business and where we could take it. But we just didn't know, how to start that process.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's where it was really important, because she kind of gave us just the basics in terms of, this is how you do this, or this is how you start that. And from that starting point that she provided us, we were able to then kind of supercharge it, I guess.
Yeah.
And take it to that next level that we had envisioned.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And also just the branding side of things. I feel like that's also really important, just making sure that your branding is really strong to, I guess, give your customers trust in what you're doing is a valuable product.
Oh, definitely. And I guess you guys had a little bit of experience in that, because, being in that space with the surf company, you would have, had a big part to play with that. So that would have been an advantage. And I like the fact that you guys did things like 5-year goals, and I know you would have smashed a lot of your goals early on. But I think just having goals in the first place, or having a peg in the sand and having something to aim for, well, you know whether you're either successful or not, because you had a goal.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And always having something to work towards. I think is key. As soon as you don't, that's when you're going to stop and not make any progress.
Oh, well, you just don't know. You'll be drifting, won't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so it sounds like you guys did a lot of amazing things, and this was a really successful venture and kicked off, and it just really went from strength to strength. But I guess I want to know, did you guys, what challenges did you guys have? And, was it all smooth sailing from the day you opened, or did you have a few setbacks, and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, definitely a few setbacks. I don't think anyone in business would be going through business without setbacks.
Yes.
Quite a few, that we've learnt a lot of lessons, obviously, in the 12 years that we've been operating now. But one of the biggest things was obviously when we, because the nature of our business is that we focus on one-of-a-kind pieces. So when we first started our business, we wanted it to be a unique experience and that offered one-of-a-kind pieces from all parts of the globe. So a big part of that was being able to import all of our own product, or a lot of our own product, so that we could have that point of difference.
Yep.
So that in itself was a major hurdle and challenge, just trying to navigate the whole importing side of things. We'd had a little bit of experience working with overseas suppliers and everything, obviously through the surf industry. But when it came to this, it felt like we were in a whole new world.
Yeah,
So
I can imagine.
With that 5-year plan that we had, our goal was to open a second store in Huskisson as well, to create our own competition, kind of like the whole food court philosophy, but bringing everybody to the area. But we ended up doing that the very next year. And so in order to set that store up and to fill that store, because obviously from being in the first year of business, the cash flow was extremely limited. So we were trying to figure out what the best way of setting up that store would be, and that was to import our own container of furniture.
Right.
So we agreed that Danny would go over to China and to source some antique furniture pieces. And we gave him 3 days. 3 days was long enough to find something and not too long if he couldn't.
Yeah.
And he struggled. Like, it was really, really hard. Nobody spoke English. He was walking around with a calculator everywhere, drawing pictures, and it was just really hard. And he'd ring me at the end of every day saying, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't think I'm going to be able to pull this off. And then it wasn't until the last day that he found a shipping agent who was able to help him and lead him to some suppliers, and he pulled it off all in the second half of the last day.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then just dealing with all of that, like, that's a constant lesson, I guess, even now, like the different challenges that you come up against with importing and, you know, dealing with overseas suppliers. That's a big one.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, was that something you guys just figured out how to do on your own, or did you have someone help or guide you with the whole importing side of it? Because there's a lot of challenges in that, customs and storage and warehouse and all that. I mean, I'm just imagining all the different components that you have to work out.
Yeah, no, definitely. We just figured that one out for ourselves.
Okay.
But which was, you know, but I think that was a really important process, obviously, in terms of how we've built our business and everything. But, you know, I remember the first containers coming, and we didn't know that, you know, you could actually specify what day the container came and what time and all that sort of thing. Instead, we were kind of just working with what the freight company told us, and we'd drag in Danny's brother to help unload the container, and just unpacking it all in the back of the shop, which was, you know, not ideal. And now we have warehouses and things like that. It's so much better. Yeah.
Well, you just get smarter with how you operate, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. But I guess looking back, you can't really change that much. Like, it was hard, but you probably wouldn't have done anything differently, because it's not like you had the extra cash to hire a warehouse, you know, to make it easier. So these are kind of the necessary lessons that you have to go through, I feel.
Yeah. And I guess, you know, if you had it all easy from the beginning, you wouldn't really appreciate the success you have now, because you wouldn't have gone through any challenges or struggles or, you know, like you said. But I think that's really, really awesome how you guys worked well as a team as well, you know, and you supported each other, because I see a lot of people that go into partnerships with their best friend or their sibling, you know, brother or sister, or could even be their husband or wife sometimes. And, you know, what starts off as a great idea suddenly doesn't, you know, it almost ends up wrecking the relationship, because it's not really the best thing for that couple or for those two people. But obviously it sounds like this worked out really well for you guys, because you were both on the same page.
Yeah, no, it's been really good. Like, we're both extremely passionate about what we do, and we both really love it for different reasons.
Yeah.
Danny's a surfer, so he's always been interested in, when he's traveled overseas for surfing and gone to all of these interesting places, but he's always loved, all of the different eclectic kind of wood carving and all those, antique pieces. And then I've always been interested in interiors, and I love that side. So we our passions kind of cross over, and we're able to make that work really well. So, and obviously coming from a background where we've worked together previously, that really helps.
Yeah.
Knowing that we can actually work together.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really, really a great success story. And I guess, for some of the people who might not be, say, as lucky or fortunate as you, I mean, what would you say to people who, are considering doing something like this? Like, let's say, it's they're in the big city or wherever they are. They've got the peer pressure around them from friends and family and colleagues and all of that to just get back into the workforce and basically don't rock the boat, and you end up competing with the Joneses, and you've heard all of these phrases, but they've got this passion that they really want to try this thing that's been in the back of their mind, or they've got this idea, but there's no support around them. What would you say to someone like that? How can they find that support or get that help?
Yeah, well, I always believe in the importance of mentors, or just finding that group of people that you can kind of network with on a regular basis, just to kind of provide that support. Like, even being located down on the South Coast where we are, it's hard because we're surrounded by a lot of our friends who don't necessarily have their own businesses, and they just work for somebody else. So even just the conversations and things that you have are really, they'll never understand what you're going through, from having your own business. So that's where I actually involved myself in a lot of kind of online education, and I'm in a mastermind group and all of those sorts of things, because I just feel that interaction with other people who are going through the same thing is really important.
Yes.
And just, especially for your ideas and being able to pursue, what you want to do. It's just really, it's kind of, it just makes you feel a lot more positive about it.
And also, you're not out there trying to do it all on your own.
No,
there's
exactly.
other people who can support you in the good times and the bad. You can learn through others. You can share experiences. It's just helpful to have a community of like-minded people around you, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And was that something, Tara, that you guys sought out in the early stages of when you were starting your business, or was it only like in more recent times that, now that you've got your business up and running? And
yeah, it was probably more the middle stage, I guess. In the early stages, we were obviously fresh and positive, and and we kind of, because we had each other, that was really what we sort of focused on, and we could, and working out the best ways of doing things and coming up with new ideas. But it was when we got probably to the middle, stage of growing our business, where we got to a point where it was kind of beyond what we both knew how to do, and we knew that in order to get to that next level, we were going to need to take the advice of somebody who could tell us how to do it. So that's when we kind of got to the stage where we were looking for a mentor. And we found one who we used to travel to Sydney to meet with once a month.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that was really beneficial. Really
good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we look at all the famous business owners out there, and even athletes and sporting teams, and people that are number one in the world, Olympians, for example. They all have coaches or mentors or a support team around them, because even if you're the number one or top person in your field or in your craft, it's still important to have people around you who can keep you on your toes, keep you fresh, keep you inspired, motivated, make sure you're sleeping right and you're eating right, and all of those things that otherwise we can get sloppy, can't we? We can just get into bad habits.
Yeah, definitely. And it's always good to have that person, I guess, like cheering you on as well, and
Yeah.
and sort of, and it kind of makes you accountable as well, because you don't want to let them down. So
Yes.
you just make sure that you keep going with what you've been learning, and you're implementing it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like when you work for someone else, you've got a boss who pretty much keeps you accountable, right? Or your colleagues, and you have to deliver, or you'll find out about it. When you're your own business, when you're a business owner or your own boss, if you don't have that accountability, well, you can just sweep it under the rug sometimes, and no one's going to know any better except you. But if you do it often enough, you can fall into really bad habits, and you don't look at the books as often. You forget your customer service levels drop. You just get really sloppy at responding on time to things. And I've seen people who were really good in the beginning, but because they didn't have that support environment, or they never had that mentor, or they never had that coach or someone to, whoever it might have been, to just keep them accountable, things got, bad pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So
definitely. And even, as far as you do get in business, like even now, as I mentioned, I'm in a mastermind, and we still have a mentor that we speak to. And I don't think you can ever, you can never have too much education.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see that you're keeping up with that. I love, mastermind groups, and just I guess even the two of us connecting like this, completely different businesses, but I can appreciate what you're saying, because I talk to people who are doing similar sort of things, and I understand some of the challenges you've gone through, and but people who don't have a group of people like this to connect with, it can be quite lonely, and sometimes it's easy to give up, and you think, why am I doing this?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about something else. So you also, you got this business up and running. This is great. And then you mentioned to me, I think just before we started the call, that you've got the wholesale side of the business too now.
Yes.
So is that how did that evolve, or was that the next step?
Yeah, so that came out of, so after we opened that second store and we'd imported that first container from China, the very next year we actually bought a little cottage in the side street of Huskisson, and we moved the store into there, because we always wanted to have somewhere that we knew we would be able to, stay in a secure location, I guess, and not lose out on a lease and things like that. So we moved into this second store, and then we thought, okay, well, we've got this store. We didn't do the clothing anymore. We thought, let's just focus on our strengths, which was the furniture and the homewares. Yeah. So how are we going to establish a point of difference in this store, considering it's in the same town?
Yeah.
So we decided that and I'd always looked into it a little while beforehand, but we decided that we would then import a container from India.
Right.
So for this trip, we both went, and we allowed ourselves 2 weeks, which was lucky, because I've never experienced anything as hard as this in my life, trying to figure out how to navigate India and deal with suppliers and client suppliers, let alone deal with them.
Yeah.
We decided to import a container of not just furniture, but decorative pieces and textiles and everything from India. And then we opened that store with that merchandise. And so operating there, obviously being in a tourist town, we get a lot of visitors through Christmas periods and Easter and all of that sort of thing. And we started getting people who actually had their own homewares or retail stores asking us where we sourced our goods from, because they'd never seen anything like it, and they were actually interested in purchasing them from us through a wholesale channel.
Right.
So we thought, okay, well, why not? Like, that would enable us to expand the business that way, and possibly even, more regularly source out, more pieces and different items. So that's when we decided to start the wholesale business. So we just had a couple of customers to begin with, who we met at the warehouse, and they'd come and select their pieces and that side of things. But then we actually decided to book in and exhibit at a trade fair and officially get that side of the business started. So that was, yeah.
So you got the retail and the wholesale side now?
Yes.
Yep. That's great. Well, you're servicing two different, very, very different markets though, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah. It's that they actually work really well together. Obviously, by having they allow each side of the business to benefit in different ways. So obviously, by having the wholesale side, the retail side benefits because we are able to import all of our products, and we can meet the higher quantities and things like that because we've got more people to sell to.
Yeah.
But then the wholesale side benefits because, we've got this retail store that we need to fill. So we just build this beautiful range of all different pieces.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And when there's an opportunity that presents itself, why not explore it? If it makes sense, you add it on as another avenue to grow, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now talk to us about this work you're doing as a so with respect to helping women. So I know you do some work around education and mentoring and all of that around that space. So, how's that going? And what do you do there?
So I actually spent the last year working on an online course that I've put together, which we've had one launch so far, and be launching again in October. But it's called Trade Wins, and it's basically an online course to help anyone wanting to start a retail business, such as ours or similar to ours. And I've basically documented every stage that we went through in terms of building our business from the ground up to where we are now.
That's great.
From the basics, from, obviously registering a business name and domain names, all those sorts of things, branding, logos, but all the way through to merchandising, building a store experience, freight, everything.
Yep.
So I've included all of that in the course.
Nice.
Just because it was something that I know when we started out, I wish I'd had access to, and I wish I had that person there alongside me telling me what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing, and at the right time as well. And I've just sort of built that because I just really, probably for selfish reasons too, because I really wanted more beautiful stores to shop in. But I really do think it's important, and I love helping people. Like, I really love seeing their dreams come to life, and I probably get overexcited with everybody else's ideas. And
I'm the same. I'm exactly the same. It's probably why I do what I do, because I'm like you, Tara. When I talk to people and they've got an idea, or I get more excited than they are. And I'm like, if I can get this excited about your idea, I know you can.
Yes, exactly. You can so make that work. This is how you can do it. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So that's why I started the course. I've got another launch in October, but it's been really great so far. I've had some amazing feedback and a really beautiful bunch of people that I'm working with. So I'm really, really enjoying it.
Now, is this for, I read somewhere, is this for women or is this for anyone?
It's probably targeted at women, but I am open to anyone coming in. Obviously, it's my husband, Danny, and I working in the business. So like if there is husband and wife partnerships or anyone wanting to come in, I'm more than open to, accommodate any of that and help them.
Yeah. Fantastic. And you're also hosting your own podcast, I believe.
Eventually, yeah.
Okay.
I've just actually recorded the first couple of episodes, so that should be going live shortly, I hope.
Oh, cool. Well, I mean, like when I first heard about podcasts, I was like, it sounds so complicated, and I don't have the skills for that. But then when I realized all it really is just two people talking, and you've recorded it, and that's it, and then you put it out. There really isn't a lot to it.
No.
So, and I guess the great thing is a lot of people who are very busy these days, whether they're in the gym or they're going for walks or they're doing other stuff and exercising and whatever, can put on their earphones and they can listen to you,
Yeah.
wherever they are. And it's such a great way to get information out there. So yeah, I highly encourage you to, to kick that off when you do.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's definitely something that I've wanted to do for a long time. Danny's always like, "Why are you starting a podcast? Like, don't you have enough to do?"
Yeah.
But it's more that I just want to be able to share all of this knowledge that we've built and that we've experienced, so that, and obviously having these conversations, it's enjoyable as well. And I love listening to podcasts, so I learn a lot from them. So it's really good.
Awesome. Well, normally when we get to this stage of the podcast, Tara, what I usually do with our guests is we play a little game, and it's just for fun and laughs. But basically, I just throw a few questions at you. It's called rapid response, and just to see how you, whatever comes to mind. So you happy to? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's go for it.
Awesome. So, what is your favorite mode of learning? How do you like to learn stuff?
Definitely in person. I love in-person events and retreats and that sort of thing. I guess intimate gatherings where you can kind of get together with people and have those kind of honest conversations and learn a lot. Yeah, definitely in person. I love that.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned you had, people who've been there to guide you and help you in the beginning, and maybe you look up to them as role models, and I know you've got mentors and all that. Is there any particular role model or hero or mentor that you would like to call out that's been quite instrumental in your success?
I guess maybe not a person or an individual as such, but we're really inspired by the stores in America, Anthropology, which they've got the most amazing, beautiful store experience you'll ever experience. Very inspired by Anthropology. And I guess going on that theme, Chip and Joanna Gaines from Fixer Upper, I love them. I love their
great, aren't they?
their positive outlook and what they do and how they've done it is just, if that would be my ultimate dream, I think.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I certainly know of them. I actually like watching their show.
Yeah.
But the Anthropology, did you say?
Yes.
Anthropology stores. Hadn't heard of that. Something to look up for sure.
Yeah.
Great. Now, is there a quote that springs to mind, often that, just it's so important to you, and it's been there as a guiding force and something that you maybe share with other people that you'd like to call out?
Yeah. It's probably not one of those things you'd stick on your wall, but throughout my life, I guess my mum has always said to me, like, if you're ever going through something hard or there's something that you're a bit uncomfortable about or, you're not happy about it, she always used to say to me, it's character building. So I always think about that. And then when hard things come my way or if I don't like something, I just think, well, it's character building. So how is this going to make me a better person, or how am I going to learn from this?
That's great advice, actually, from your mum, because someone else, actually quite a few people have mentioned over the years, life always gives you challenges that you are capable of dealing with. And if something bad happens or something, like you fall down, you pick yourself up, and it is character building. So
definitely. And you have to have a positive outlook.
You really do, don't you? No, that's good. Is there a cause or a charity that you guys support or would like to call out and, I guess share with our members that you're a part of, perhaps?
It's something that we've actually been looking into at the moment, and we've spoken a lot about it, and we kind of can't wait until we can travel again, because we haven't been able to do it yet, just trying to work out the best way of setting this up. But we want to be able to, when we travel to India next, work with some of the schools there or the orphanages and provide or help them provide education and support to some of the, especially the women and the girls going through those schools.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an initiative that we're working on at the moment in the background.
That's awesome. Yep.
Yeah.
No, very good. Very good. And that ties neatly with, you wanting to inspire women as well, isn't it? And help.
Yeah.
You can do that with a whole community of women over there.
Just providing that opportunity for education, which isn't always readily available.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Now, you mentioned a couple of things that are different about you. You bust when you were a teenager and things like that. Is there anything quirky, Tara, that you'd like to share with our audience that they might not know about you? That you're willing to share?
Yeah. I probably, this is another thing that probably doesn't really match my, I guess, what I'm doing now, but obviously growing up down the South Coast and everything and doing a lot of things with my dad and my brother, I actually don't mind. And my husband, Danny, he actually bought me a gift for my birthday once of 5 laps of the V8 supercar racetrack at Eastern Creek.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I don't mind. I really loved that actually. Like I loved driving around the racetrack.
You're a bit of a rev head.
Bit of a rev head, you could say. And I've been to the Summer Nats with my dad and my brother on one occasion.
Wow, that's so funny. It's funny you say that because I know another lady who if you ever met her, she comes across like a Cinderella. She's always like dressed like a princess, and she runs her own business, and she's a speaker and an author and all of these things, and she's always prim and proper. But when she gets home, she puts on the leather pants and the helmet and all. She gets on her bike and she goes for dirt rides and in the bush, and I'm like, oh wow, like you would never picture someone like that doing that. But
no.
it's great to have that other alter ego side of it. When you can let loose a little bit.
Danny always says that I'm a walking contradiction.
But that's good though. That's really good. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I've enjoyed our chat. I think I've learned a few things from you, and I know some of our listeners probably picked up a few good tips as well. Now, if people wanted to get to know you better, Tara, or reach out to you personally, or find your stores or anything like that online, where would you point them to?
Yeah, so you can visit our website, www.fewandfar.com.au, which is all of our retail offerings. Otherwise, you can visit me on my website, tarasolberg.com, which is where I host the Trade Wins course. Awesome.
So that's nice and easy. We'll definitely put those links when we share this live with everyone. That's it. That's pretty much the end of the podcast. I've really enjoyed having you as a guest. Is there anything you'd like to share, some last tips or, for the people that are listening, just to inspire them that they can take away?
I guess just if you do have a dream or you do have a passion that you're wanting to pursue, don't let that fall to the wayside. Like, I just can't imagine going to work each day and not loving what I do. So I think something that's really important to other people, to find what they love and to pursue it. So yeah, definitely don't let that fall by the wayside.
Yeah, great advice. Yeah, we're on this planet for such a short time. Make the most of it. And if you've got a dream, an idea, something in the back of your head, maybe a hobby that you'd like to see become more than a hobby, take it up. And if you don't know the next steps, like Tara was sharing earlier in the story, find someone who has either done it and you can learn from them, and then maybe you can one day do better.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, great. Well, Tara, listen, thank you so much for being a guest on our show. And I can't wait to get this out to everyone. And obviously, keep in touch, and we'd love to see you go really well with the online program, as well as your podcast. And I'm sure people will be checking out your site as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gavin. I've really enjoyed our chat, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
You're very welcome. If you like this podcast and would like to understand a little bit more about what was just discussed, then you're in luck. Simply head over to breakfreefromcorporate.com, and we have a fantastic bonus gift waiting for you to download. All we ask in return is that you leave us a review on iTunes and or Stitcher, whichever you use. And lastly, help us share this podcast around with your friends, your colleagues through Facebook, Twitter, Google+, or LinkedIn. We truly appreciate all your support, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this podcast episode of Break Free from Corporate. Once again, to access previous and all future episodes, visit breakfreefromcorporate.com and subscribe today.